welcome back. In this tutorial, we'll be calibrating the height and the length of the arms of the avatar to match the height of you with your headset and the length of your arms with the controllers. So this particular make human character, when you're the correct height, the arms aren't necessarily the right length, so they're not in good ratio to the human. We'll be starting with the Unity project we created in the last tutorial. I'll also leave a link in the description where you can download this Unity project. And let's go ahead and get started. We'll start with the man. We'll add a script called Calibrate Size. And we'll click on that. Let's add public, we'll call it grow height. So in this function, we want to grow the height of the character by 5%. So let's make a scale percent public float variable. We'll make it 5% by default. So, and we'll also make a private float for the height scale. And we'll want the height scale to be the avatar's current local scale in the Y direction, and we'll add the scale percentage onto that, and then we'll just change the local scale of this object. Similarly, let's create a shrink arms or shrink height. And the only difference is we'll subtract off 5% each time we run this procedure. And similarly, we'll do the same thing with the arms. So we'll copy these, change the height to arms, grow arms, shrink arms. And we'll also make a scale arms. So scale arms, we'll need the upper and lower bones. So let's get a public transform, and we'll enter in the upper arm bone left, lower arm bone left. So we'll be scaling both of these. Similarly, we'll get the upper and lower right arm bones. So we'll scale based on the lower arm bone. One of the lower arm bones. We'll just pick the left arm bone, the current local scale in the y-axis, and we'll add on 5% onto that. And then what we'll do is we will scale the lower arm bone left, and the upper arm bone left, as well as the lower and upper arm bone right. Should be lowercase here. Okay, we'll scale them by the scale arms amount. Similarly, for shrink arms, we'll do the same thing, except we'll subtract off the percentage scale. So each time we push a button that triggers this function, we will shrink the arms by 5%. Okay, we're set with that. We just need to add on some way to trigger those functions. So let's go into VRTK. Under the examples, scene 30, you can drag in the SDK manager as well as the scripts. And let's remove this example scene, don't save it. And the SDK manager has setups for all of the different devices. I will get rid of these three. I'm not using the simulator. You can keep in there SteamVR as the setup that we will use. And let's delete this camera rig and we'll drag in the camera rig that we created previously. The setup switcher, we don't need this. And okay, so now this is where the radial menus are kept under VRTK scripts. In the panel menu, go down to element 0 of buttons. So this will be the up button. If you download the Solid Earth VR package, there'll be some icons. So let's put on grow height in the first button here. And when we click on that button, we'll, based on the function on the man, we will run calibrate size, grow height. Similarly, for this button 1, we will grow the arms. So we'll add that icon on there, and we'll drag the man in here, add the calibrate size, shrink arms. So it will be the left button. Element 2 will be a shrink height. Add on click, drag the man in. Function, calibrate size. This is the shrink height. Element 3 is the grow arms. Calibrate size, grow arms. And that's all we need to do. One thing to check that I've seen a problem is in the editor, edit project settings player. I see this under virtual reality SDKs. Make sure you don't have none here because that messes up. You want it on single pass rendering. Make sure virtual reality supported is click there. So if you go into the SDK manager, where it says under setups, auto manage VR settings, turn this off because that will replace what you have in your player settings. Let's click on auto populate. These ones that we removed are messed up. So we'll just want SteamVR in the SteamVR by default. Ensure that the objects under SteamVR, the actual objects, are actually attached to the correct camera rig. Left and right model there. I'll go ahead and save this, push play. Okay, I'll shrink my height. Up a little bit. Okay, that's a good height. And then as I bring my arms out, I can push the button to, there was some error. Go to the console, notice there's an unassigned reference exception. And the arm bone left. Open references. and click on left arm transform and drag that over to the calibrate size script. Similarly for left forearm, drag that over. Right upper arm, drag that over. And same for right forearm. We'll drag to the lower arm bone. Okay, so he's a little bit tall. Let's shrink him a little bit. Okay. So his height is calibrated about right. And now we need to grow the arm length. Maybe a little bit less. Right about there.